Coming up on OTH, Raymond and I quickly go over patch 12.5 before getting into the madness that was LCS Week 4, a super week, and TSM's downfall. We hope you enjoyed this episode of On the Hunt. Welcome, everybody, to episode 47 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris, aka Slip and Slide, because I use a lot of lotion, just like as a person.
Yeah. Nice
Just
and lubed up
good or bad.
at any given time.
You could say that. I didn't say it. You did. And because of that, I keep a lot of lotion on my desk. And it's in my computer. It's also at my desk. And that's why, that's why it's there. Because I just need lotion.
Sure.
As a person. It's just the way I am.
Yeah. I believe you.
And doubting me is our other co-host, Raymond. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just doing my thing. I'm not much of a lotion guy myself, to be honest. So I'm living out here in the dry world of Southern California, playing some League, playing some Lost Ark, still on the grind. It's been good.
I think you've got a good balance right now. You're hopping back and forth between the two. So I think you've got the gaming life is going good right now for you.
It is. And I'm still like I've been watching some people play Elden Ring, and I got a couple buddies who are like bigger like Dark Souls games kind of like fans than I am. But Elden Ring looks pretty fun, dude, and I'm kind of down to try that, but like right now I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I have the time to split 3 ways, so I'll give it a little bit of a break before I dive into that one.
Here's my thing. I've actually never played like any of the Dark Souls games, but I'm in a mood right now where like I just want to vibe out and I don't want to have to try.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to think or get frustrated with the game or like just getting beaten down to the point of like I'm not even having fun anymore. So
Yeah.
right now my gaming life is just purely 100% Lost Ark, but I did log on to League yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
I've just been super vibing and flowing along.
Heck yeah, dude. Yeah, I think the only time I remember playing like Souls games, I played Bloodborne like a little bit. I remember I got that on my PS4 when like around when that came out. And I've gone back to it like on multiple occasions and would play for like a week or two where I was like playing kind of good sleep, but never got anywhere near to beating it. Like I wasn't that good at it. And then I remember when like Dark Souls 1 had come out and like first went to PC, and I had a buddy who was like he got way into it and came over to my house one time and was like, dude, you have to get Dark Souls, like you have to try this. And he bought it, like, or like I bought it, and then like we installed it, and he got like these mods for me, and then like he showed me how to do like the whole first area. Like he was doing like speed run strats for like the whole first area practically. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like I'm not good. I couldn't beat any bosses. I was like he would just take over and be like, oh no, dude, hold on, let me do this for you. And I was just like, I don't think this game's for me, man. And then he went home and I never played it again. So like it took me a while to get back into any of them. But I don't know. You're right. It's definitely not like a vibe out game. You got to be in the right mindset.
Yeah, and I'm also the kind of guy who plays games on like normal mode, not like hard mode on purpose or anything like that. So, like stuff like Bayonetta, I'll just play it on normal, dude. I'm good. I don't need to play like deathless, no damage taken, S rank, Devil May Cry type of thing. Like I have known people like that too, where like they'll just be super like 100%ers of a game and just do like no death runs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean those guys are real gamers.
True.
And I guess I am not.
Everybody's a real gamer, dude. Any gamers are real gamers. Come on.
Yeah, thank you. I think I needed that. Let's talk some League, man. Actually, not much of a big week. Pretty slow in my opinion. But we do have a new patch that dropped this week. And let's go ahead and jump right into that.
Yeah, bring it on.
And so with this, it's pretty much a small patch. Just a few champion changes with four nerfs. I think the Master Yi one's kind of an adjustment. 2 straight buffs and a couple of more adjustments for Seraphine and Misfortune. And then a change for Hullbreaker as well. That is relatively significant. But other than that, not much going on here. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think I would start probably with talking about a couple of the little changes. There's a change to like Gwen. She's getting a little bit of a change to her or a nerf to her damage against monsters from her passive. So this is this one feels a lot like it's targeted at like competitive for people that are early picking her for her power in the top lane and in the jungle. They'll just it's gonna slow down her clear speed and stuff a little bit, but not too crazy, but probably will be a considerable nerf to those that are trying to utilize her in the jungle.
Yeah, and then the E change of hurting her, the bonus attack range from 100 to 50 is just a straight nerf to both top lane and jungle. So I think that's pretty interesting. I feel like that's going to severely impact her gameplay. Um,
Yeah, that is true
but
actually.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how much like the range things always feel like I don't know, especially on melees. I think it's obviously good, right? Like that's one of the things that makes like Aurelia good too. Is she has a little bit of a larger attack range, and I think maybe when her passive is fully stacked, she gets a little bonus on that too. I don't know if that's just a imagination
I think
that
that's
I'm
just
misremembering.
visual. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that's a
Um,
real thing.
but she like but those kind of things are like impactful, but to me it's almost like only at the highest of high levels of play, you know. It'll be interesting to see if that like really impacts Gwen like in the top lane at like lower elos or what, or if that's just going to be like a strict competitive balance change because it's range is like powerful but like hard to utilize, I think, especially when it's at melee kind of levels.
For sure. Any other champions that stick out to you, or any other changes?
The Master Yi ones are kind of interesting, but like I don't play Master Yi. I'm just hoping that that's an ARAM nerf, so that like Duskblade Master Yis just don't get free pentakills. Uh, like honestly, I'm not even trying to read all the changes that are going into that. It just sounds like they want him to be more on hit rather than full AD building. The one,
Yes,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Master Yi if you're a connoisseur.
I'm not a connoisseur, but the Dustblade build is kind of crazy. I'll go ahead and just kind of run through some of the changes. So during the Q, it doesn't count towards his E and R duration anymore, so it will pause the durations for the Alpha Strike animation, and then you can also activate them during Alpha Strike. So that's just two quick things out of the way. The third thing is that Alpha Strike now applies on hit effects, including his E, but it gets reduced as like or the later hits of the Q get reduced effectiveness from on hit effects. And then the fourth addition would be that, which is a nerf, that the more ability haste that you get, the less your Q returns your cooldowns, which I guess is fine. Like I'm sure it evens out at some point. And that's kind of it. It's just a lot of like fancy changes to his Q. I don't
Yeah,
think it's gonna have like a super big impact. It'll be interesting to see if people just go ahead and go and try to do on hit builds and try to do a lot of on hit stacking or attack speed kind of things. But doesn't
yeah,
seems like somebody at the office was just bored.
yeah. Honestly, I think probably somebody in the office just like also got pentakilled by ARAM Duskblade Yi too many times and was like, this shit is annoying. Let's get rid of it. But yeah, I don't think on hit Yi is like probably bad, right? Like Kraken Slayer is good. They just buffed Bork. Like there's probably a world where this champ is okay. Like, but I don't know. I don't know if we live in that world. At least in like LCS, this isn't going to change anything, right? Unless you're playing like Lulu top with Yi, maybe actually. Hold on, I gotta call some teams.
Yeah. And then let's go ahead and talk about the Hullbreaker change as well. So, uh, pretty much what's happening is that they're reducing the effectiveness of it for ranged champions and pretty much Graves.
True. Graves and Jace. There's been a weird amount of like champs that have actually been taking this item. I feel like even if they're not true users of it in a way.
Do you know how it works exactly with Jace? Is it just in cannon form or is it just always?
I'm pretty sure with Jace, like you get the proper effects depending on what form you're in.
Okay, I guess I never really thought of that, of like how Bork interacts with him. Not
Yeah,
that I would ever try to make that on him.
right. But yeah, I think that was. I think that's the case. I mean, it was like no, now I'm not remembering what I was gonna say. But yeah, it's like I think it works like how you'd expect that he gets it melee bonuses in melee range kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then one champion I want to talk about is Ari, who was my previous week's pick of the week. And they're just giving her some light changes here. Mana cost increase on E and W, and then some slight damage changes to her W, which aren't that end of the world. And I feel like there's more that probably should be done because her pick rate is pretty high right now. Not that I'm a pick rate, win rate kind of person,
Yeah.
but I'm sure that she's very popular, and I foresee more changes coming down the line for her.
Yeah, have you seen anybody? Somebody, one of my friends was trying to tell me about ADRE, and I saw Caps playing it in like a Reddit post on, uh, like on their front page the other day. So like, I don't think that's a real thing, but this technically hits the ADRE build by like screwing with your mana costs and your W damage.
Is that like bot lane Ari or mid AD
No,
Ari?
playing it mid and just like going Kraken Slayer and AD, so you don't have to actually hit your charm and other abilities.
Man, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I I would say that like sometimes I do get scared of ADTF where like he'll just pour on you, gold card you, and then kill you during the duration of gold card. Like that's the worst nightmare when I think of like AD builds on AP champs gone wrong.
Yeah, dude. I think it was before last season. Like in the off season before last season when Reckless joined G2, and Reckless and Mickey were playing like just normal games, like in the off season, like just to screw around.
I
Uh,
think I remember that,
you
yeah.
remember that? And they would duo queue, and they'd play like Zillion TF bot lane, and Reckless was playing AD TF, and that stuff looked disgusting. Like he'd get sped up into a gold card, into a double bomb, into TF just like smacking you down. It was fucking hilarious.
Oh, that does sound terrifying actually. That sounds like that should be a pick of the week or at least a YouTube video,
Yeah, I'm
a
sure.
tuber.
I'm sure we could find it. Uh,
Anything else for any changes in this patch that stick out to you?
yeah, I would say also the Seraphine changes are kind of interesting changes. They're
For
kind of
W and E?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Seraphine connoisseur every once in a while. I feel like she's a fun enchanter to play if you're like you can build her carry kind of, like or play her in carry roles, um, like like how people were playing like Terraxona a couple years ago. Like Seraphine bot is like not bad. So like I've fooled around with her a bit. These changes are kind of weird. Like they're definitely nerfs. Uh, they're changing your W to make it more like scaling oriented. Like you kind of have to level it now. So if you are playing like not support Seraphine, it's pretty important that this is like the second ability that you max. I think, unless you like are certain you need damage or something like that. So it's a lot of the W strength is now from points in the ability rather than being like a 1 point wonder that it was before. And then just a nerf to or a buff kind of to the E cooldown so that it's better early on, like or at that 1 point you have 2 seconds off it. So just like a heads up if you're also a Seraphine enjoyer that you probably should be maxing Q into W now rather than
For
QE.
sure. Yeah, the increase on cooldown on the W is gonna really incentivize putting more points into it in like the middle levels. All right, and then lastly to round out this patch, we've got new B skins coming along.
My
So we
goodness.
have B Ziggs, Heimer Stinger, Nunu, and B Lump, which is kind of scary, and Orbiana, which actually looks kind of nice. Like that's actually kind of wallpaper worthy almost.
Yeah.
Except I would probably get like scared from it being my wallpaper of just like bees staring back at me or something like that.
I think I was watching
But I
Power of
dig
Evil's
them.
stream, and he had his background actually on the stream already was Orbiana, but he had Gnasher's Tooth and Conqueror photoshopped onto the bees like hands because they're his go-tos now on that champ.
Yeah, that I don't even want to get into the math for that.
But yeah, dude, I love these skins. I think I'm on the train at this point of like every champ in the game should have a bee skin, and like we should not stop. I don't know why this is only a springtime skin line.
Yeah, I was thinking like how often do they come up with these skins, and maybe it is like only once or twice a year. But
I
I
think
yeah, I
so.
feel like it should be more often than that because I'm sure that these sell like hotcakes.
It's like one of the best meme lines in a long time. Like since like the pizza delivery like skins, that shit was funny to
I
me.
feel like there should be more pizza skins. There should be more of
Honestly,
like
true.
more food skins. I feel like there's not a lot of them. Maybe there's only like maybe even 5 that I can think of.
I can't believe that we have like Billie Eilish in Fortnite, but we don't have like more like fast food skins in League of Legends, you know?
Yeah, we just want the fast food. Before we jump into LCS, I guess there's just a little couple of things here. So, one of the directors from TSM Legends, he ends up leaving TSM a couple of days ago, and a lot of people are leaving TSM at this time. And I was actually watching something else. I think it was, I want to say, the show on G4 with Dom and LS. I don't remember the name, but they revealed the person who that Travis Gafford was talking about like a week ago. The one of the coaching staff members that was removed from TSM
Oh
around the
yeah.
timing of Shen Yi leaving the moving down to academy. Yeah, they revealed who that was,
Who
and
was it?
I'm not familiar with the person. But yeah, they were kind of making a big deal of it, or at least LS was like, wow, that guy, I didn't even hear about it. I should check in on him, stuff like that. Um, so I just thought that was interesting that like I haven't heard anyone else, even talk about that, mainly because of the whole LS stuff was going on around the same time. But yeah, I just kind of forgot that a coaching staff member was removed, and they were just talking about it a little casually of like, oh yeah, this was the person.
Did do you remember who that was? Because I still haven't heard that either.
I don't, but you can go watch whatever that show is called. I don't. What
Okay.
I um
I'll have to do some research.
yeah, it's the one on G4, the
Okay.
G4 channel.
But yeah, the I don't know, the Andrew White leaving to their Legends director. It feels honestly at this point like I'm not surprised that more people are leaving TSM. I think Parth was on like the LCS like countdown this week, right? Or like the waiting room or whatever they call it now. Um,
Yeah, he was there like all Sunday, I think.
yeah, and like I was listening to some of his talking points on those shows, and it he made a good point that basically like at this point TSM is now like a totally new like org, right? Right? Like essentially it's just a new org in the league rather than like it being just like a kind of like normal turnover of like players or whatever. Like they've got a new coach, they've got a bunch of different coaches now, right? They've got new staff like at every level, like all this stuff. Like I can see being anybody that's like part of like the old TSM guard kind of like at a corporate level or like the media level of it where like you joined when Reggie was like a hands-on CEO and like Lena is the president of a bunch of operations, Parth is the GM, like even like Max Olivo like going to offline TV now, right? Like all those guys that are like auxiliary like parts of the organization rather than like league people necessarily, like that's where I can totally see it making sense to just be like, yeah, everybody that I used to work with is now gone, so like I'm kind of not tied to this team anymore.
Yeah, in off the top of my head, I would say the longest standing people at TSM is probably Peter Zhang, the academy coach, Spica, who I think he's probably been there for 3 years, and then maybe Kays, who I would think he's been there for 1.5 or 2 years now.
Yeah, I
So
think he
the off
joined
the
at the
top,
start of last year. Yeah.
yeah, so off the top of my head, those are like the 3 longest people who have been there. I don't know if the academy people have been there a little longer. I don't think so,
Yeah, I
but
think most of the academy this year is new too.
yeah. So like you said, I think there has been a lot of turnover in GSM over the past year. That essentially makes it like a 90% a different group of people.
Yeah.
And I guess with speaking of TSM, there's just a whole lot going on with them over the past weekend. But one last thing that we can get into is something that happened from this set of LCS games is that on Friday, the last game was delayed to Saturday, and which was EG versus FlyQuest, I believe.
Mm.
And the game that took place before that was CLG versus Immortals which ended up being the last game on Friday. And so what had happened was allegedly there was they were experiencing some lag throughout that game, and even to the point of asking for pauses, having it investigated, and there was lag, and that they and LOL Esports ended up putting out a competitive ruling on that, saying that they're going to uphold the how the game ended up turning out to be, despite verifying that there was some instances of lag that occurred throughout the game. However, it was determined that those moments of lag happen during times of like downtime in the game. For example, walking back to lane, it doesn't matter if you lag or something like that. So, what do you kind of think of this ruling of like, yeah, there was lag, but we don't think that it mattered in the moments of the game that you might think it matters, such as in a team fight or during a part of the laning phase or something like that.
Yeah, this one is like kind of interesting. I think I was listening to Hotline League on Monday, and Mark Z talked about this a little bit, and he had an analogy that like I thought of at the same time. It sounded like he wasn't as confident in it, but it kind of it made a lot of sense to me. Like if you've ever watched like baseball and like that's a sport where you're out in the weather and like there are like if it starts raining, right? Like you can have rain delays if it's too bad and you can't continue. But if it's not like as soon as it rains, like the sport is called off, like or the game is called off. It has to get to like a certain point where it's no longer like viable to play the game. Um, so that part like makes sense to me that like the way it sounded was that it was really only Luger that was having problems, or the way that the competitive ruling made it out to be, right? It was really only Luger that was having like consistent problems with it. Maybe like at the beginning of the game, there was the whole team having an issue on CLG's side, and then like throughout the rest of it, there were a few pauses here and there related to it. That was mostly on Luger's side. They could verify that that was happening, right? Like there were logs and stuff showing it. And so like being able to look into it and say like, yeah, this is all like dead ball state kind of stuff makes me feel okay about it, And then I think um, I think Travis was talking about like CLG's like GM talking to the people at EG like after the game, like, hey, like you guys are gonna be on the same side. Like just make sure to check your settings and everything and see how it goes. And they like escalated it. And then at that point it was the league looking into it and saying like, yeah, this is kind of unplayable at this point, or we shouldn't go forward, like knowing that it's an issue. And then overnight the issue was identified and resolved and all that. So like that, it makes sense to me. Like I don't feel like CLG was like screwed out of a dub or anything like that. Like I can see a lot of where they're coming from. Um, I don't know. I would have been more surprised if they said like, yeah, we're taking this back and CLG is like gonna get a replay, or we're just like gonna cancel the game or some weird shit like that. Like that would be more surprising to me than just like what they've decided on.
Yeah, I'm with you with the way that it turned out. Like the game score should just be upheld, and rather than it being like striked out or just not count or something, or have them do a rematch, hopefully on the same patch but next week or a different day, something like that. Um, I guess just to add to the conversation, I was listening to Dom, who kind of brought up a similar point of like the problem with it, taking place in the first place is that if you experience lag at any point in the game, which is not normal for this kind of for you would think a LAN kind of
Right.
environment, or at least an 0 to 8 ping environment, that like experiencing any kind of lag on at least on the stage, it's just kind of a jarring experience, and then you just don't know like when is it going to happen again. Am I going to lag? What situations am I going to lag in next? And that might affect the gameplay and choices that you make throughout a game of, oh, maybe I shouldn't go for this trade or risk or even minorly risky thing in the off case that I just might experience a ping spike at a certain time or something like that. So I'm totally with
Yeah.
you on like, yeah, if they say it wasn't serious enough at during points that it mattered, then and yeah, the game score should be upheld. But that's just something that I thought was an interesting addition to the conversation around the whole thing of like, I hope that next time that any player reports any kind of lag, I hope they call it off rather than having them play through it or something like that, and then determining what is the point that it's too bad to have to play through, I guess, is what's important to me for next
Right.
time.
I think that's the hard part, is to say like that there's a definitive cutoff ever, right? Because like I'm not, if I like, if there is lag at some point and you fuck up something and then like you call a pause and like it's not just a chrono break to before then, if they can verify whatever, right? Like then that feels bad to me too. If like I don't know. I would be, I think honestly, if that's Dom's stance on it, I can totally see if somebody said like, "Oh yeah, I didn't go for this tar dive because I thought I might lag." He'd call them a fucking pussy, and like you shouldn't be a pro if that's the way that like you're gonna approach the game. So like I don't know, like that argument I don't have as much confidence in, but I see the point. I don't know. I just don't think you
Yeah,
can
it's
have,
not really an argument. It's just like,
yeah, that
let's talk
perspective.
about it.
I don't think you can have like cutoff of, yeah, this is where the lag is unplayable, or this is where we have to call the game if it's not like consistently reproducible, right? And that's what it sounded like from this game, is that like you couldn't know, like they obviously didn't know for sure that like it was a sustained issue or like was gonna keep happening until they like got everybody else on stage and it happened more often, right? Like the first instances were not clearly like what's the word, a recurring problem.
Yep. All right, let's get ready to talk some LCS. And so in our little document here, I've set up last week's scores and this week's scores so we can kind of see how it went overall for, the first super week of this spring split in 2020. And so up at first place,
2022, bro. What the hell? What year are
dude,
you
oh
stuck
my
in?
God, I'm
Holy
tripping.
shit.
Dude, I'm stuck in time. 2022. And so up in first place, we have Cloud9, the only team to go 3-0 this weekend. Now in first place, tied with Team Liquid at 7-2, first and second place. Next up, we've got three more teams tied with FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, and 100 Thieves at 5-4. FlyQuest notably going 0-3 this weekend. Next up, we have Evil Geniuses, Immortals, and Dignitas all tied at 4-5. And then at ninth place, we have CLG at 3-6, and TSM at 1-8. And so some notable things is, it's Cloud9, they went 3-0. A couple of teams went 2-1, including Golden Guardians and Evil Geniuses. A lot of teams went 1-2, including 100 Thieves and Dignitas. And then and CLG also went 2-1. And then notably, TSM and FlyQuest went 0-3 this weekend. So, we were talking in last episode about, which teams are you worried about? And so which teams are you really worried about after, these results have gone by? Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point you got to be really worried about TSM. Like that one, we'll just get that one out of the way. I don't know, that this weekend did not look like there were very many shreds of hope. They lost to CLG. They kind of got bodied by CLG. It wasn't even like a super close game. You lose to 100 Thieves. That one you get some leeway, but 100 Thieves hasn't looked great either. And then a loss to TL, like that one was also a bit of a stomp. So I don't know. It was a rough super week for TSM. They end this halfway point of the split at 1-8. There's not a lot of hope for the rest of this split, at least. So I don't know. We'll see what they decide to do moving forward. Whether they bring back Shenyi or whether they send him back to China and bring in Jensen, Svenskeren, and Niski or something. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
I'm glad that last point that you just brought up. Let's talk about that really quick, just for fun. Do you think that TSM should make either a roster change right now or look to do one? If mid split is probably not possible, but mid season after spring split, do you think that they should make a roster change? I'm actually of the opinion. So first of all, for mid split, no, let's just ride it out with whatever we've got here, and I think that's a more healthier solution to have most of the players try to figure out whatever problems that they have here. And
Mm.
then secondly, as far as mid split goes, aiming to pick up somebody like Niski or Jensen, which Monte Cristo brought up a good point on Summoning Insight that I listened to this week, is that even if they were to try to get Niski, there has to be some sort of thing that goes on with regards to making sure that he's eligible to play in an overseas country again, that there's
Mm.
going to be like some time that would have to come with that setup if they were to try to pursue it. But anyways, um,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
even
know.
know if that's a good solution to do mid-season roster change.
Yeah, I think
So what do you think?
I'm with you that like nothing should happen right now. Like if you want to change something right now, if it's like whether they decide that they can bring Shen Yi back to the roster. And there was some weird stuff this weekend with like Spica coming on Twitter and saying that like, none of the players were involved in like Shen Yi's benching, and that was like when the like leaked phone call happened and he was talking about like he wanted to be shot calling, and like the team agreed to that kind of thing, like even when they were 0-4, like that kind of stuff is different questions. Like there's obviously more behind that. We could talk more about that, but I don't think we're going to now. Um, but like if you wanted to bring Shiny back because, whether they decided the team environment is good enough for it or his English is improved or whatever, I'd be okay with that. I think he's still somehow involved with the like main roster, like being in some VOD reviews or whatever. I'm sure they're doing internal scrims at least once in a while. Um, like that would be the only change I see happening right now. Uh, I think mid split you could consider it. I don't know. I don't know that I feel like confident in too many moves. Like I honestly the LCSs looks pretty fucking good this year. Like in terms of like how good like C9 and TL have looked so far. That it's probably unrealistic to think you can scrounge together a like summer winning team just by picking up Niski or Jensen or somebody in the mid split. So I would tend not to go that direction. I think like you need to figure out whether Kadwa is somebody that like you want to keep, and whether the same goes for like Sheni or Yursan. Maybe you have like replacements for Huni or Tactical. I don't see that. I like the one that sounds most likely to me. If you think Kiadwa is good, and I feel like you should have confidence that Tactical, Spica, Huni are like good players and can work, right? That depends on like how your coaching staff feels about them too. But like you might look like for a more proven support like Ignar or something, as somebody who played in LCS last year, that like that could be an angle. But I don't know. I don't think that like there's really a world where TSM could scrounge together a suddenly like LCS caliber, like championship caliber team just over the off season, and I would rather like just stick with the scraps that I have if that's really what it turns out to be, and then look at it again in the off season.
Yeah, and I would say looking at the grand scheme of things, or looking at the last 4 years for TSM, I'm kind of already accepting of their downfall in a way. It was really just going back to like 2018-19. It was really disappointing that they didn't go to worlds those years, but at least they were still making playoffs. 2020 was really special, just the way that they were able to win over in summer and then go to worlds once again. But
Mhm.
then 2021, looking back on it, they didn't go to Worlds, and then now like it doesn't look like they're gonna go to Worlds again, and so at this rate, and so,
Yeah,
but like a wise man once said, "Spring doesn't matter,"
true.
and so
A wise man who is currently unemployed.
true. I don't know. Just think about it and looking at it, zooming out a bit. It's like, is it really that crazy? Um, and so there's just a lot of memes going on with it, and it's kind of crazy. But in the end, like maybe we'll look back on this and just see it as another blip or just another spring split of like whatever, dude. It's just kind of interesting to think about.
True. Yeah, true.
But
All
enough
right.
about the 1-8 team.
Yes.
Another team
Yes.
that you wanted to bring up, are you worried, was Evil Geniuses, and so what they went 2-1 this weekend. They still end up the first half of this spring split with a -4-5 record. But so what's your assessment of them so far, and how do you think that they're going to be doing moving forward in the next 9 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think they had a bit of a weird weekend because their first game was the one that got delayed right to Saturday. So really on Saturday it looked like they had a pretty good showing. I think they had a good win against FlyQuest and then another good win against Golden Guardians. And Golden Guardians having had just come off a win against TL, like they were looking like really good, I thought. That was kind of a match where it was like, oh shit, are Golden Guardians like actually a good team? Mm, EG kind of showed them up.
Yeah,
Um,
EG butt blasted them the
yeah.
big time too.
So I think that was definitely a good day for them. They lost the next day to CLG, which is, I don't know, this weekend also was kind of CLG's weekend. So
Yeah, and did you
like,
watch
how
that?
much do you
Did
take
you
away?
watch that EG versus CLG game?
I think I watched it, but I kind of forget it now because I know I watched the TL TSM game, and then I think I
Okay,
probably was
I
like,
caught it
I'm
at
not
the
gonna
end.
watch
That
this.
game was the game where like it looked like they pretty much won because Zara Yumi is
Oh right,
busted.
yes, no, I did watch that game. The Zeri UV game was there was that one fight. It was just insane, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It turns out that's a disgusting combo, and I've heard some extra conversations about it now, and apparently there was like a lot of AD carry bans that game, and what none of them were Zeri, and
yeah,
she just gets
they.
through, and her Q is the range of Ezreal Q, and she's just disgustingly strong and fast, and hops over walls like they're nothing, and chases people down with Yumi. And if you watch the Double Lift Co stream, they were complaining that she has 3,000 health while doing all of that. So
Mhm.
pretty crazy champion so far.
Yeah, that was definitely. I think that first game of the split, or the game where Danny got the pentakill against TSM at the beginning of the split. Like that was
Oh
a
yeah,
showcase of like this is a Zeri that is like popping the fuck off, right? This game was like a showcase of like this is the disgusting level of Zeri where it's like even even if she's like not super far ahead, she can just like absolutely pop off in a fight. Um, yeah, and especially with the Yumi combo, it was pretty wild.
yeah. It really showcased that she's a 2022 champion, if you know what I mean.
True. Release date difference.
But so yeah, each Evil Geniuses ends up 4-5 for the first half of the split. I wouldn't say that I'm worried about them anymore, or I wouldn't say that I'm worried about them, but I'm not eager or excited for them either. But
Yeah,
I'm
not
pretty
on the
sure
hype
that they're
train.
gonna make it into playoffs, with the way that they were looking this past weekend.
Yeah, I think they're definitely showing themselves as a contender again. It's just going to be about consistency for them, especially with like their young players between like JoJo and Danny. Like it's just up to whether they can show up week after week and pull out the regular season wins to make it into playoffs. I think summer there won't be a problem for them. It'll be more time to mesh, and it's top 8 in summer anyway. But spring, with how Immortals kind of showed up this past week, with how Golden Guardians is playing, I think that the top 6 might be a race for them. They're definitely not a shoe in like they were at the beginning of the split, but they're showing promise. I like the way they're headed.
For sure. The next couple teams whose weekends I want to talk about are both Dignitas and Golden Guardians, who started off 3-3 going into the weekend, with Golden Guardians pulling ahead 2-1 weekend, and Dignitas falling behind with the 1-2 weekend. Dignitas, I was saying I wanted to keep an eye on them because they were playing all three teams above them in the standings. And then they ended up falling to Cloud9 and somebody else I can't remember. Cloud9 and
Uh,
and Team Liquid, but they were able to beat 100 Thieves.
yeah,
And so I guess that those are just more. I want to keep an eye on Golden Guardians after seeing them pull ahead, and it looks like that they're doing okay for this split, and that there's so many teams who are within like just one game
right.
of each other. Third through seventh are just within one game, and Team Liquid and Cloud9 are starting to pull ahead, but even then they're only two games, and that an O2 weekend can kind of ruin that. As showcased by FlyQuest, just absolutely losing their first place lead, and now they're in contention with all of the other teams again in terms of game records. So
Yeah, next week, FlyQuest could easily be in ninth place, right? And they were first place last week, so
that's kind of
that's
scary to
that's the
think
world
about.
they're in. Yeah.
Yeah, from first to ninth in like 2 weeks. But anyway, so we talked about how the records ended up being for the past weekend. But was there any games from this past weekend that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think especially for one of those teams in particular, I think Golden Guardians had a really good week, and one of those games being their win over Team Liquid on Friday.
Yeah,
That was like obviously going into it, TL had only lost a game to 100 Thieves. They had won lock in, right? They were looking really good as a team. Um, this week was a little weird for them because Core JJ was out due to a family emergency, right? Like, or personal reasons, whatever. So it was Ayla back in again. So the super team Liquid was once again put on hold, but still as a team they've looked pretty good and had accrued only one loss over the split. So the Golden Guardians getting their win was like really, it was really looked like a clean win too. It was like not like super scrappy or like, you know, TL was making a bunch of mistakes or anything. It didn't feel like that. It felt like Golden Guardians was playing pretty well and playing up to the task. There was one like crazy a Blazov 1v3 pop off in a fight around Dragon or in the bot lane.
Yeah,
That was super fun to watch. I've seen a lot of commentary kind of about that one being like, I mean, that's like one of those that's like a highlight of the split kind of thing, I think, or will go down as, you know, beating up a Blazov, beating up Bjergsen, beating up Hansama, you know, like that's a storyline and a half right there. So that was cool to see. I think as a team they looked pretty good. But yeah, that game in particular I think is my like highlight for the week.
awesome. I guess I don't really have a highlight game from the weekend, but I do want to just give nods to Cloud9 and Fudge doing really well this weekend across their three victories in the Super Week, having played against FlyQuest, Dignitas, and one more,
100 Thieves.
and 100 Thieves. And so, yeah, speaking of 100 Thieves, I guess I want to play that game with you again of are you worried about 100 Thieves? They do have a positive record, 5-4 for the first 9 games against each of the other teams, but what do you how do you think of them? And you feel free to take this from any angle that you want because I've got, a, an angle of discussion on it myself.
Yeah, like weirdly I think that they're in a similar boat to EG. Not because of new players, but just like somehow about finding consistency. I don't know if it's like just the meta is weird for them. Like I don't know. They've had. I feel like they've just had issues with like replicating their same formula for success from last year, which it seemed like a lot of like playing through closer, playing through bot lane. They're like part of that is maybe like the meta right now with like the hull breaker tops and like the Tryndamere picks and like some days, you know, like I feel like we've seen a few games of Someday on Tryndamere and some of them have been good and you see like Someday getting triple kills randomly and others of them don't feel as good like and they like the team doesn't know how to play around it. So I'll I'm I know that 100 Thieves can be good, right? Like they're still the defending champions of the league, but I don't know like what it's going to take to get them back to that form right now. If it's just Viego buffs or what.
I know, right? Yeah, I know that closer can play more than just Viego. I want to say that I'm worried in the sense of with the way that how close the league is, and they can't seem to take decisive wins over other middle of the pack teams, and
Hmm.
be in the same position that Team Liquid and Cloud9 are right now, or at least differentiate themselves. Like if they were 6-3, I wouldn't be saying this, but I want to say that I'm worried for them moving fast forwarding into playoffs. I don't know if they'll be able to get past semis and be able to have another showing again in the finals of the split or the split playoffs. I don't know if they're gonna call it like mid-season showdown again or whatever it was. So
Right.
that's what I want to say right now is I'm worried that they're not gonna make it back to finals again, which is a high standard. But so that's my preliminary analysis of how their split is going so far.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I would agree. It's they don't look as good as they should, right? Like that's the thing. Is like I think everybody knows that they can be good, but there's
Yeah,
just
for the
been
team running it
some
back. Yeah.
right, there's just been some strange plays out of them so far.
um, anything else about this past Super Week of LCS before we look forward to the next one?
No, I think you got it. I think we're pretty good. We shouted out C9 going 3-0 even after losing their coach. I think the other shout out we'll do real quick is Immortals. Immortals and CLG both having like kind of a statement like revival week where both teams looked pretty bad leading up into this split or leading up into this Super Week, and then pulled out a couple 2-1 weeks or weekends for themselves. Both look pretty decent. I don't know. They weren't all over like top tier competition, right? I think CLG getting the win over EG is kind of nice. The TSM win is not really that much. Immortals got the win over CLG, right? Like all like there's it's nice wins. It's nice wins to have, not necessarily like crazy wins to have, but nice wins to have for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, looking forward into next week, the way I kind of do this is I immediately just look for the teams that are playing Cloud9 and Team Liquid. So starting with Cloud9, they're going to be playing both Golden Guardians and Evil Geniuses, which are, I'm looking out for how Golden Guardians are going to do, and I think you're kind of looking out for how Evil Geniuses are going to start the next half of the split on. So I think they had a couple of interesting games there. And then for Team Liquid, not really an interesting week. They're ending up playing Immortals, and their other game is against 100 Thieves, which is technically one of the teams that they've lost to in the first half of the split. But again, we were just talking about like, how is 100 Thieves even doing right now? And so I'm thinking that Core JJ is going to be back for this next weekend. I guess we haven't gotten an official confirmation for that.
I think he is. I think he is. I think we saw
Oh,
that.
he is. Okay, so that yeah, the roster will be different from the first time that 100 Thieves and Team Liquid played, and so we'll see if Team Liquid is able to even up that score between the two teams to 1-1.
Yeah, I like that matchup. I think this week I saw a Mark Z video maybe of him breaking down TL's loss this weekend, which was like down to like he highlighted basically against Golden Guardians in that game of um, TL's bot lane like kind of losing the lane just by some like bad level 1 misplays and then like bad fights later in the lane. So those are things that I imagine are much less likely to happen if it's Core JJ playing with Hansama rather than ALED. Not to knock on ALED, just like talking about a world champion here. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how they match up against one of the premier bot lanes in the league in Hui and FBI.
for sure. Are there any other games or matchups that you're looking forward to?
I think outside of those like kind of marquee matchups that you're talking about, I think it'll be interesting to see the continued play of like CLG this week.
That's what I
Like
was
last week,
thinking too.
yeah, I think last week looked like really good for them in terms of like coming together and like finding ways to win. I think part of like the hype that a lot of people got on CLG was in the play-in tournament, or not the play-in, the lock-in tournament of them like looking really aggressive, really like kind of able to keep the foot on the gas like when they found leads in games. And then probably a lot is what has happened in the regular season so far is not being able to find those early leads and then just kind of looking lost in the mid game, playing from behind. So hopefully this last week gave them some confidence in like their early strategies and like finding a way to make those kind of things happen that they can keep that rolling. Because it does seem like Luger and Poom, if they get picks like Zerayumi left open for them for free, then they can continue to exert their power over the league.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they're Luger and Poom are able to showcase their strengths as a duo. One thing that I would be concerned about is just that the veteranship for this team is severely lacking for me in the
Yeah,
ten and the even though Contracts is a longtime player who has been to Worlds, I don't know if Contracts is the veteran player that who I would want to lead this team, um, because of I have doubts about his ability to make like consistent um, leadership qualities.
yeah, he feels a bit like a blabber kind of player where it's like they want to go for high plays and that kind of stuff, and
Yeah, no, that's
that kind of
actually a really great
mentality,
comparison.
right? Like that kind of mentality is like cool to have as somebody who like you need as like a driving force, but maybe not like a leader, because if it goes badly, how do you pivot off of that, and how do you keep the team like mental straight?
Yeah, thank you for salvaging my like struggling thoughts there.
No
But so
problem, man.
yeah, it's not that I'm looking forward to the CLG games, but I do want to see how they end up, at the end of this weekend because, um, I mean, almost everybody that they play against is going to be above them in the standings, but they've got some closer matchups to, where they are record wise with matching up against Dignitas and Evil No and 100 Thieves. And so
Mm.
yeah, I'm interested to see, can they move up into the middle of the standings, or is this another to continue their hot streak, or are they going to be pushed back down into the standings and
Yeah,
stay around the eighth to ninth place range?
they
But
just
we'll
got to pull
see.
out. They just got to pull out the classic CLG strategy of drafting like Vi, Galio, Camille again. Just go
Yeah,
back to that.
the Holy Trinity. But yeah, so those are just kind of the matchups that I'm looking forward to. But otherwise, I feel like anybody who plays TSM, anybody who plays Immortals, eh.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of past the TSM. Like none of those games are interesting anymore, and like they have to do something to draw me back in at this point.
Yeah, yeah. TSM would have to go like 4-0 for the next 2 weeks for me to be like, okay, I see you.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, I'm just kind of like, all right, next split, go next.
Go 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 fast fast fast.
Yeah. All right. Anything else for the next week of games?
I think the last thing, if I'm not mistaken, this week is the first week where Renata is going to be enabled
Oh,
in competitive. I think, because I've noticed people trying to spam that in Champions Queue now, so I'm pretty sure that means that it's the competitive patch. A nice benefit of Champions Queue getting insight into those kind of things too. So that I'll be interested to see if there's any kind of meta shifting around that champ because it does seem like she's had pretty high priority in those games, and I don't know if that's just because players want to try her or if she's actually pretty powerful. I'm She seems like the kind of champ that can make a lot of different champions viable in the bot lane. Like you might not want to be just first picking Caitlyn and then finding Renata on the next round. So like if we want to see like Dravens or Kog'Maws or Twitches or something like come into the meta alongside Renata, that might be the prime time for it.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited to see if Renata gets any play in the LCS. I don't know if she fits into the meta right now, um, where she is, but I mean, I would. It's a 2022 champion. I'm sure
True, dude.
there's something
Honestly,
there.
imagine one like you're playing against this team that you've given like Hansam and Jinx to. He's like 900 CS, 20,000 gold up on your team, and then just one Renata ulti, and he completely team wipes his own team with rockets up, and then you win the game. Think about it.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. And Jinx has been seeing so much popularity lately. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised that she didn't get like at least love tapped in this patch that we talked about today, but who knows what their plan is.
Yeah. All right. And then we can go ahead and finish off this episode with some picks of the week. And I don't mind going first here because I've got kind of a troll one.
All right,
As you
take it
know,
away.
again, I have not played a game of League since like February 17th or something like that. However, I do have a pick of the week, and that is going to be Double Lift's video of him playing with Shen Yi because I just thought it was entertaining. And, having watched that video, around the time that all of this stuff has been going on with TSM, it's just kind of interesting to, hear a bit of his comms myself. And so I would say, and it's not the full game. It's just, a very condensed version of the games that they played together in Champions Queue. And I would say
Mm,
that he talks a fucking lot to the
yeah,
point where like people kind of compare him to Smoothie. And I have heard in the past that Zazel was another support who just talks a lot to the point of you could possibly consider that like cluttering comms. And
right.
so some of the things that I kind of gleaned from what Shenyi was communicating is, I think he does have a lot of good and strong opinions about the game, and checks up on each player. Hey, do you want to back? And as somebody, as a member, as like a team member, those are the kind of things that I would love for my teammate to just like take control of, and I don't have to worry about that, and make sure that maybe other people aren't overextending, that they're spending their gold and stuff like that. I would one thing I would be worried about is just like maybe is his attention too split of like why is he paying attention to the mid laner at this time, or telling them like actually to the point of like possibly micromanaging them, saying they should stay
Right.
mid when a play is going top, and instead of um maybe focusing on possibly what other places could his attention be put to. It's just what I'm thinking. And so pretty interesting insight, and I'm sure that there's infinitely more games that you could glean from his stream or something like that. So just some fun insight into the Chinese mind, the LDL mind.
Yeah.
So that's just going to be my pick of the week since I haven't been playing.
All right, respect. Yeah, I'll definitely shout out his stream. I've been watching a lot of Shenyi's stream just because he's streaming Champions Queue just about every night the last couple of weeks. So it's a good one to check out if you're interested to see him as a player, and maybe some of that stuff about TSM too.
What about you, my man? You got a pick of the week?
All right, dude. I do have a pick of the week, and this one is gonna be, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like it's like a flex pick of the week, and it's gonna be Kog'Maw. And I say this
Oh,
because like this is one that I've not like really like dove into testing it, but I think that like Kog'Maw Renata is like potential like in the bot lane, or as at least as a good pairing, just because like it's kind of like a lot of people talked about Renata W, comparing it to the old Yorick W or Yorick ulti, if you remember pre-rework Yorick,
was it
when
like
we had
he
the baby.
revives people or something like that?
Yeah,
He
it was
did,
like
yeah.
you'd put this mark on a champ, and then if the champ died with the mark on, they would come back, and it was basically like Scion passive or like Chemtech Drake passive, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it was basically like Renata W now. Like they'd come back to life, and you got like 5 seconds or 6 seconds to just like
Yeah,
be alive again. You had to die again, but
right.
you would die at the end, right? Um, and I think Kog'Maw is like a good champ to kind of pair with that playstyle because he's gonna get heavily focused, and you basically just get a like a what's the word I'm trying to think, like a threat cleanse, like in like WoW, like that kind of thing. Like everybody's gonna dive in on you, and if they blow out their stuff to kill you, you still get to DPS maybe if they don't do too much damage, right? So I think that's definitely potential on that end. Like the attack speed buff from Renata W is pretty huge. The her ulti just can buy enough time probably for Kog'Maw to get damage off in fights. So I'm shouting that one out as a potential, champ to pick up in the meta, especially if down the line we see like more Caitlyn nerfs or changes to those kind of champs, because he can pop up as another hyper carry if he's not too bullied out of the lane. And then also you can flex him into mid lane. I think there's potential. I think there's been some people playing him as like a first strike champ in the mid lane going AP, and he's still not bad in that role. So who knows? Who knows? Just saying, he's a
I
good
like
champ.
it. Yeah, you're doing some theory crafting there, and I respect it. And as you were describing the benefits of Kog'Maw, I was thinking like, well, why not Jinx? But you know what? That's not what we're
Jinx
here
is
for.
banned, bro.
Yeah.
People should ban that champ. It's played 200 out of 200 games in LCS. Like, it's not fair.
Yeah. And so, you know what? I like the Kog'Maw. He deserves some love. I'm surprised they haven't, they don't really do any like big changes for him, or like nobody ever talks about reworking Kog'Maw, because I feel like he's just been the same way for a long time,
Yeah.
with some clear strengths and weaknesses, I suppose. And people always have like their faith in late game Kog'Maw, and so I like he does need the backup sometimes, and
Yeah.
Renata could be the one to give it to him.
And if you're gonna be playing like Lulu top and shit anyway, like that's a good champ to have as your bot lane carry. So
Right, and maybe you can do 71% of your team's damage to
yeah,
break the
true.
records.
True.
Okay, and that's going to be it for episode 47 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on the service that you are listening to us on, if you haven't already. We'd appreciate it if you would also give us a rating or hit the like button to show some support. You can also find us on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify and so forth. And we'll see you all next week for another episode of On the Hunt.
See you guys.